Welcome to AdaptN. In this video, we'll cover setting up fields, creating zones, activating fields, and running nitrogen recommendations. To create your first field in AdaptN, click on the land icon on the left navigation bar. You'll be presented with the option to either draw a field on a map or drag and drop a shapefile. Let's start by drawing a field on a map by clicking the drop zone on the right. Enter coordinates, an address, or a zip code in the input box, or drag and zoom into the map to find the field you'd like to model. Use the polygon tool to draw out the boundaries of the field. Click to create each point in the polygon, and then click on the original point to complete the field. Then click Submit. Once your boundaries are established, create a new farm or assign the field to an existing farm, and then give the field a name. If you'd like to create an additional field, click the plus button at the top of the screen. To create a field using a shapefile, locate the shapefile on your computer, zip the components of the shapefile into a single archive, and then drag that zip file onto the shapefile drop zone. This causes the boundaries to be automatically drawn. Again, assign that field to either an existing or a new farm. Once your field boundaries are created, create at least one zone in each field. You can use a single zone to generate a recommendation for the whole field, or create multiple zones to produce individual recommendations based on varying soil types, organic matter values, yield goals, or other characteristics. After clicking the Add Zone button, click anywhere outside the field's boundaries to drop a pin, and then drag that pin into the field in the location you'd like to represent the zone. Give the zone a name, specify its size, choose an appropriate slope, indicate whether the field is well drained, and then choose the appropriate soil texture or soil series. Use either the default rooting depth value associated with that soil type or specify another value. In this account, I've also added 2 additional zones to the south field, each of which will model different soil organic matter values. Once you've created your zones, you may either work with each zone individually or work across the zones in bulk to establish their characteristics. Start by clicking on the soil icon on the left navigation bar. Select the appropriate tillage system, and in some cases choose additional options such as % residue of the previous crop, and input your soil test results. You may either specify these across multiple zones or enter them for zones individually. In my example, I had a 12-inch soil sample, and my River North field had a 3.5% organic matter. I'll check the box on the right for that zone and click Submit. I'm then going to enter my values for my River South high organic matter zone, which was 4.8%, and my low organic matter zone, which was 2.1%. Next, I'm going to click the crop icon in the left navigation bar and specify the information about my crop across these fields. In this case, I'm planting the same seed on the same date across these fields, so I'm going to check the box at the top to represent all the zones. I'll specify my maturity class, the expected yield, which we define as the maximum yield this field has demonstrated in the last 5 years, and our estimated or actual planting date, which we can update as the season progresses. Specify your estimated harvest population and your previous crop. If you have questions along the way, you can click the help icon to access quick tips, and in some cases you'll also find a link to an article on our help site. That's all we have to do to get our basic recommendation. The next step is going back to the field view and activating the field, which gives us access to recommendations for the rest of the season. By clicking the Activate Field link, the system will display the size of the field, how many acres are left in your account, and once you activate it, those acres will be deducted from your balance and you'll have access to recommendations within those boundaries for the rest of the season. You can continue adding and modifying zones. To access the zone list, click the arrow icon next to the field name, which will display the list of zones within that field. From the View menu, you can access any of the individual components of the configuration or the nitrogen recommendation itself by clicking on NREC. The first time you access the nitrogen recommendation, click the Go button in the upper right to have it run for the current date, or use the date selector to go back in time and run this against actual weather from a prior season. For example, I can go back to 2014 shortly after planting to see what the recommendation would have been, and click the Go button. At this point, AdaptN gathers the high-resolution weather data for this location and runs a set of simulations to determine how much nitrogen is needed to hit the yield goal for the characteristics specified for this zone, taking into account nitrogen gains and losses up to this point as well as expected gains and losses for the rest of the season. For an accurate in-season recommendation, it's important to enter into AdaptN any applications of nitrogen, irrigation, or manure that have already occurred. Click the Applications icon on the left navigation bar and choose the type of application you'd like to enter. For example, to enter a fall application of anhydrous ammonia, we would specify the date of the application, the type of fertilizer applied, the amount in pounds per acre, and the placement depth. We would then specify which zones the application applies to and click the Add button. When we return to the nitrogen recommendation page, we'll notice a warning indicating that something has changed since the last time the model was run. We're going to click the Go button to get an up-to-date recommendation, either for the current date or by choosing a date in the past. In this example, I'm going to look at what a side dress recommendation in early June would have looked like in the context of that fall application and planting date that we specified. In this case, AdaptN is recommending 105 pounds of nitrogen needed to hit our yield goal. We can modify any of the inputs by clicking the pencil icon next to the header information for land, soil, crop, or nitrogen, manure, and irrigation applications. Also from the recommendation page, you can launch our interactive graphs, which show various information throughout the season, including total nitrogen loss and precipitation, breakdown of nitrogen loss, mineralized nitrogen and average daily temperature, nitrogen availability and uptake by the crop, and crop growth and nitrogen uptake. You can also launch our short and full PDF recommendations, which can be printed, emailed, or saved, and can also be customized with your logo and brand. By default, AdaptN will rerun every active zone's recommendation each day throughout the season, taking into account updated weather data to produce a current day recommendation. Visit our help site located at www.adaptn.com/help for additional tutorials and examples on using daily dashboards, creating nitrogen alerts, and other features.